So we're now going to reassemble the pump. We have all our parts, they've been cleaned. The first thing we want to do is put the O-rings back on the parts that have O-rings. And we're going to take this lube seal, which is a food grade grease. It's for hot products, hot shearing mechanisms that are moving food, and it's very safe. It's even kosher. So we're going to put that on each O-ring as we put it on the piece it goes on. And as you're putting the grease on, it's just a clear, pretty tacky grease. As you put it on the O-ring, you're going to check the integrity of the O-ring. Make sure there's no cuts or tears, that it's not stretched out of shape. So for this piece, this piston, we're going to put these two O-rings on. And put the grease on. We'll put the first one in on here, the first track. So now our second one will go right over that one with a little convincing. You want your O-ring tight, so it is going to take a little effort to get it on. There it goes. And now we're going to put a little bit grease on this piston. This piston is what puts the portions, the amount into your bag. So you want to make sure that it's well lubricated. Okay. This next piece is the plunger. It has two O-rings. We're going to lubricate both of them and kind of do them at the same time. Again, check the integrity. You want to make sure you don't feel or see any cuts or breaks and they're not stretched out of shape. Okay, so that piece ready to go. The only other one is the block. There are two white O-rings. There's 3 tracks. So you take the first 2 from the end without the metal fitting. This is a guide track. If you put an O-ring in here, when you're assembling it, you'll realize your error. But so let's do these 2. Again, we want to put some grease on them and check that there's no cuts or breaks and they're not stretched out of shape. If you find that there are extras, you replace it. Let your supervisor know that you've used an O-ring or you've replaced the O-rings, so that they can keep track to order additional parts. So we'll put the first one on. It's right in there. Okay, now this again is a part that receives a lot of friction during your workday. So you want to put some lubricant on everything between the O-rings and to this edge. Doesn't have to go out here. Okay. So now we're going to grease the big barrel. This is what the food goes through, but also the plunger goes back and forth through it all the time as you're pumping. So we're going to make sure it's well lubricated. So we're going to take our grease and we're going to put it in the barrel on all the surfaces, not the concave piece here, but all the way through almost until about the last 2 inches. So this takes a bit of grease, and it's kind of like greasing a baking pan. Reason we do it by hand versus spraying something on is a spray lubricant would probably not be heavy enough to take the wear it gets during the course of a food production day. So we've got it pretty well greased. It's ready to go on. I'm going to change my gloves because now my assembly will be, we've got all the greasing. So we'll just take a clean pair of gloves for assembly. So now we're going to reassemble the pump. I'm going to take the plunger, which we've already put the O-rings on and we've lubricated them, and lubricated the outside of the plunger. So I'm going to put it on. It just fits right on here. It just sits right on there. Then the next piece is the barrel. And it will clamp on. So I have my gasket and clamp right up here ready. Now a little trick is to move that, when we took the pump apart, we move that piston out. Now we're going to push it in and it will help hold the barrel to the block as we're clamping it. I'm going to put my gasket in here. You can't see it on the camera, but the plunger is moving forward, and that's going to help hold your barrel while you connect it to the block. I've got the plunger now about right here. We're going to give it a try. You can always move it more. I already put the gasket in there. Now I've got my clamp. You have to line up these two. Once you line it up, then your clamp should fit nice and snug, and you should be able to tighten it down. Now I'm going to go back and move my piston back to, or my setting here back to about number 7, which is where we had it yesterday. There's a ruler on here, it's just numbers. You will check the volume that you produce by using a quart or a gallon measure. Now we're just setting it right here and tightening down the screw. And when the pump's activated, it'll go into proper position. So we're good right now. We've got our screw tightened. We're back to our number 7. Yep, all good there. So now our barrel is on and we're ready to go. So now we're going to put this piece in the block. And it has a metal connection and it goes in one way. There's a rounded side and a flat side. So you want the flat side right now near the top. So we're going to take one of these arms up. This little guide is going to go up and we're just going to slide it in. And then the guide will drop into its little track. This is moved by hand and you just put your pins back in. They go back and forth, so they should match right up. That one's good. That one's good. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to put the standpipe on. Again, you have a gasket and a clamp. Just sits right on there. Dairy clamp goes around. I'm going to move my dairy clamp a little bit. If the clamp's on correct, it will easily come together. If you have too big of a gap here, you might not have a tight connection in here. Okay. All righty. So I'm going to put the depositor and this nozzle outlet together. I'm using a white gasket. This is a loose gasket. I'm going to use the white one there. I'm going to put the piston inside. I'm going to clamp the two together. I put the these air fittings kind of towards the back. This will hook up to here. So right now I'm just going to clamp these together. Okay, so once this piece is together, it's kind of, now it's a bit heavy. You're going to take a black gasket. That'll go here. This goes here. Keep it nice and straight. And then your heat shield will actually have the gasket attached. I'm sorry, the clamp attached. So this is a heat shield. Goes over this. Nice and straight. Okay. So now our pump is assembled. We're going to add the air connections to the depositor. We still don't have the air on. This is all disconnected. We're not connected to live air. We're just going to add the white hoses to the depositor for when you're going to operate, you'll be ready to go. So remember, we hooked these together. Now we're just going to unhook them. It's a quick disconnect. You can't put it in the wrong one. You've got, this one will go here, this one will go here. So whichever one you want to do first, put it on, make sure it's tight, put it on, make sure it's tight. That wasn't tight. Okay, you want to make sure they're tight, you don't want them to fly off. Okay, so now you're really ready to go other than connecting to air, and you'll connect back to your kettle. Now we're going to put the elbow onto the bottom of the block, and this will then connect to your hoses that come off your kettle. So we use a gasket and a clamp. I've put a little bit of grease on this gasket to help tack it onto the bottom of this outlet. I'm going to put that on here. It'll just help hold it in place. And then you want to have your clamp kind of in your hand so that when you get this, because it's more of a feel, you get this in place, you want to be able to put that clamp around it with your other hand. You can do a team effort here. You can have one person holding it, one person clamping it. I think I got it. Oh, and then the end of the screw fell off.